Today we have Jay. Jay is the CEO and founder of CaterPal Technologies. We had a call prior to this, and he has an amazing story, I think for a lot of founders, for people who organize events. For Jay, gonna tell us more about his story, how he built his company, and all his journey until what he's doing now, and what's CaterPal doing. Jay, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Abu. Great speaking to you again. And yeah, excited to tell you a little bit more about how we got to where we are today.
Awesome. Jay, can you tell us a brief introduction about yourself? Me, I know you, but our audience needs kind of to know who's Jay
Yeah.
and where are you from, what were you doing, and a little bit kind of a brief story.
Yeah, born and raised New Yorker, grew up working various hospitality jobs from restaurants, bars, hotels, then went on to very early join a catering company where we were middlemen in that process, working with office managers, admins, set up all their meetings, events, lunches, and then basically grew into became the CEO of that, ran that catering company for about 6, 7 years, and then got kind of came to realize that hey, there's a lot of aspects to events aside from catering, right? Where everyone likes to attend events, but planning the events sucks. There's so many different moving variables, so many pieces involved, and it takes these planners weeks, if not months, to plan these events thoroughly. And it kind of gave us to this point of going to all these tech events in New York, realizing that they're all starting to look the same. They're not as curated as they're meant to be. We wanted to be a part of that change. And part of that is step one, making it easier for the event organizers to take away the logistic side of things so they can focus more on the guest experience.
That's awesome. I believe Jay, I think you were in Antler probably
Yes.
for 3 months ago, or can you tell us about the experience with Antler and how it went? And
Yeah, I think Antler is a great program. It's a great accelerator. I always say this. I think they do a really good job of bringing a lot of smart people together, which just helps you move faster. Prior to that, we were working on an idea as well. But once you kind of step into that accelerator program, you see that you're able to move a lot quicker. And it feels like every day you need to do something that actually moves the needle, right? And it's just putting yourself in a different atmosphere where going from the pandemic where everyone's working from home, now they're returning to office, being around the right people can genuinely impact how fast you're able to move and how fast you're able to execute on ideas. Like when we initially went in, we went in with a different idea. It was more so an AI catering solution for restaurants that would enable them to get larger catering orders directly on their website without having to contact the restaurant. And then we ended up pivoting as we realized that catering is only one aspect of events. So why not encompass the entirety of the logistics of it?
yeah, so was that when you said pivot? Honestly, just before this one, I never been to an accelerator. I applied to for YC, probably like everybody,
Yeah.
and I would say the biggest benefit of these kind of accelerators, in my opinion, as you mentioned, it's it creates sort of a competition. I feel like it put you back when I was a kid, competing in school or something. I used to have, if I'm in a group, I am very competitive. I'm
Yeah.
still kind of competitive, but somehow there is aspect when you are around people who kind of hustling. It just you could be the most motivated person, but it just probably you agree with this one. Speaking of pivoting, was that the pivot your idea, or because mentors, or because you talk to customers, or how you come up to the pivot?
It was actually my idea. I was very gun ho on this AI catering solution. I still believe that one day it can come to fruition. So we kind of pocketed that idea, and in general, we can incorporate that technology into this new idea that we're pursuing, right? So because I came from the catering world, I realized how the difficulties and kind of like how people were ordering. And I saw that it should be easier. We need to enable restaurants to get more catering orders, but also make it easier for the consumer to place these orders so they're not always ordering too much or too little food or have to go back and forth with the catering manager. Why can't things become more instantaneous, especially in today's day and age? Why can't you get a proposal in real time? Why can't you customize it, but having that kind of slight hand holding to guide you to make sure that you're not over or under ordering. So part of it was also to reduce the amount of food waste I saw in the space. But ultimately, speaking to a lot of these customers, it was just a very minute aspect of it where what if we were to incorporate it into a bigger problem? And going back into Antler, I mean, I applied to a few accelerators. A funny story, I always say this, I don't even think I was supposed to be in Antler. and it's maybe pure luck of how I got in. I like submitted the application like, months prior, got rejected, no first interview, anything. I went to one of their poker events, spoke to them, and then even like the community leader asked me, he's like, "Oh, did you get feedback from your AI interview?" And I said, "I didn't even get an AI interview. I didn't even meet past that first level, right?" And then they ended up, for the first time, they held this thing called a super day, where if you got kind of accepted into that one day, you got to kind of skip all the steps and interview with one of the partners to get in. I was on the waiting list up until the day of, and then through some, I guess, like connections and some luck, I was able to get accepted, went to that super day, pitched, and then found out later that night that I got into the Antler program. So
I didn't know. Actually, I
yeah,
didn't know they have like an AI interviewer, honestly, because I
yeah,
remember like a while ago I applied here in Japan. I think in Japan they don't do it. Maybe it depends. Like at that
depends on
time
the
I got
person.
email from them, but like because my company is registered in US and you have to be kind of you have to register in Japan. But I didn't know they do AI interviewer. That's
I didn't know
interesting,
either.
even
I
for excellent.
didn't.
That's interesting. Even I thought this AI interview just for candidates, even for accelerators, they do this. Probably they get tons of applications. Speaking of like now, like you mentioned the AI interview, since we mentioned the word of AI. Now, somebody from the audience, they would be like, "What is with catering, organizing events in AI? Can you tell us like briefly, like how the AI actually helps, or the kind of how kind of MyCaterPal like kind of works like exactly with AI or?"
Yeah, essentially. So we looked at the entire process, right? When you're organizing an event, you first start with kind of the idea, the description, the type of people you want there, right? Now, when you actually get into the logistics of it, you have to figure out where you're going to host it, if there's going to be food, what type of food you want. Do you want to bring in any unique experiences? How high end are you doing? A mixer for 50 to 80 people? Are you going to be doing a private dinner for 20 to 30 people? So determining what type of event it is, that's kind of the first step, and then going ahead and inquiring about all those different sources. So what AI basically comes in is, it's not necessarily the initial AI is, you call our agent, you to give us a brief description of your event, it'll create the transcript of it, send you the details, and then from there, we're able to have our agents go ahead and browse what would make your event most successful, depending on from the start of the type of venue you want or you should have, and then if you want to include any unique experiences, if you're going to need food, basically reading what type of people you want there and determining what are the best aspects of each of these different variables, right? So as in the example of, if you're looking to hold a mixer for about 100 VCs and founders, right? Our agent will go and find the top 3 to 5 venues that fit the vibe of what you're looking for and send you those suggestions. And then from there, you can basically hit inquire, 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 and our agent will go ahead and inquire about that. Basically, do the outreach to all of these different venues and vendors on your behalf. And then basically, you just confirm and book all in one place. So think of it a single point of contact for the entirety of your event. You no longer have to
That's
do any research, reach out to multiple people. All of that gets done for you with AI agents.
I think that's it's definitely like an interesting. Honestly, personal. I never organized events. Like I think like small events probably like my girlfriend sometimes do events here in Japan, but like it's not like a. Uh, but I know the problem at least to find in the venue.
Hmm.
Like I remember there's some websites like kind of you need to browse. This is big. This is small. This is expensive. This is not available this time. Like kind of and it's definitely a challenge. But speaking of like how many like I think you talk to a lot of people like
Yeah.
what's like the ideal customer for you, like who actually gonna use like kind of your AI app like.
Yeah, I would say corporate event planners in general, as well as community builders, right? Because I think the biggest problem is the logistics take up so much of your brain power, you're not able to focus on what really matters, which is the guest experiences. And I realized that going through all these tech events, a lot of them, in my opinion, are just starting to suck because of that. Where you're focusing so much more on the logistics rather than the guest experience, the attendee experience. We want to remove that and allow you to focus more on that, make events better in general, more impactful, create more meaningful connections.
I totally get it. So speak. I have like now like two questions since you mentioned like first one like is you said about the logistics and also like booking. Does the agent itself book or just like suggest you like for example the recommendation and you do the booking or how it works?
End to end, it suggests it, and then you decide which ones you want to inquire and which ones you want to book, and then we book it on your behalf.
Like yeah, because like I'm more concerned about like for example privacy. I think yesterday or a couple of days ago I posted about this. Like a lot of people skeptical about privacy or like where there is something like let's say involved credit cards, they don't trust agents. At least it's still like agents kind of still pretty vague. Everybody like kind of trying to build them, and we are in era kind of a building which is kind of of course exciting, but at the same time like you would find a lot of people I don't know resisting this. I don't want to put my credit card into the agent like so is it like manually human in the loop will do the action or how it works like
Yeah. So as of right now in the early stages, we're using the agents internally, verifying all the informations before we push it off to the end user. So now the user, it's not as if they're giving their credit card to an agent, we're facilitating the entire transaction. So it's like you're giving your credit card information to CaterPal Technologies and we're facilitating everything for you. The same way you would do with Airbnb or Peerspace, right? You're facilitating the transaction and then we send those payments off to the respective venue or vendors.
That's definitely clear. Speaking of like, I think you came like the industry. Like I think for AI space, like it's kind of is gonna be more like kind of verticals. Like, and I feel like successful founders probably like if they know a niche, they know very well. I can assume the catering very well. What do you see like trends in this? Like beside you, for example, building, is there like other trends like in this space? Also, they trying to build similar or solve other problems beside this?
Yeah, so I would say the trends are one, as you've noticed, I would already say that the back to work boom is already happened. People are still talking about it, but people are always coming back to work. So companies are using one, catering as a method for bringing their office back, right? How do you entice your employees to want to be in office? Offer free meals. Simplest way. Now, events as well, where coming still from like kind of like getting that after effect of the pandemic, people are looking for in real life connections. There are more and more events occurring in these hyper cities, and I think New York is a fantastic place to start because, let's say, for example, New York Tech Week. There was more New York Tech Week events this year than there ever was before, and that trend is going to continue. There was 1,000 plus events in the course of 7 days, right? Nearly impossible to it actually just literally impossible to have to had attended everything. There are multiple events going on every day, and that trend is going to continue even outside of New York Tech Week. More people are hosting social events as well as more tech events and niche focused events, right? Because people want to meet people in real life. No matter how far we get in this AI or tech world, people will crave that human connection, and we want to enable more people to be able to host and do those things.
Awesome. Jay, like, I think I should ask you this question, like at the beginning. You seem like a hustler for me because for me, like, if somebody organizing the events, talking to people, it's exhausting. Like, I like talking to people, but not a lot of people, and not kind of like, I can tell you have the energy, and you've been through a lot of challenges. What is the main challenge for you, like currently, like kind of as a founder, building kind of in this space?
I was thinking about this and talking about it with a few people the other day. I think being a founder is hyper glorified. You see all the big tech crunch newses. You see like the tens of $1 million raise. You see the Ubers of the world, and it's hyper glorified because it's not like that where you're living in the trenches for a very long time, and that's something you have to be okay with. Where it may not work, you may have to pivot, and the reality of it is you have to believe in yourself and your idea before anyone else does, because every other day it's easier for you to doubt yourself than to keep going, right? So I think that's one of the highest difficulties is kind of keeping your eye on the ball, just realizing that you may not see progress today, but you are progressing, and you're going to see the results in maybe months, weeks if you're lucky, but most likely it'll take like even potentially years. Ideally, it will be speeded up by the movement of AI if you do things correctly, but it's really just realizing, hey, if this is what you want to do, understand that you may not see results for a while, but you have internal motivations to keep going.
Absolutely. And honestly, like I feel the same. Like 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 there is the thing called like the shiny object syndrome, where there's like a lot of founders, they just pop up a new idea, you end up like, from crypto, drop shipping,
Mm-hmm.
SaaS, AI, like every day, kind of like. And I feel like with AI space, it's it's getting worse, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Like the distraction, like for example, you see like, and you look at their startup, it's just like, oh, this AI is in this one, there is this one, and you end up like, okay, you go to kind of vibe code kind of landing page, end up like buying a domain. Like it's easy to get distracted, and you're absolutely right. You need kind of a focus. Speaking of a focus, like what's the vision for this? Like for example, for you, like are you planning just like for example to stick into catering, or like you expand more? Because this space, I feel like there's a lot of money to make around this space. Like what's the vision for this? And
Yeah, ultimately, we already surpassed catering. We're handling every logistical aspect of the event. Like I mentioned, where it's like finding your venue, organizing food, staffing. We're already providing unique experiences where if you want to take your event to another level, we can bring in things like, hey, you want to do a cocktail making class or a dumpling making class. We brought in crepe and boba stations for certain events, can organize things. Off site, whether it's at a venue where you're doing potentially karaoke with your team or even a yacht social mixer. And so the ultimate goal is to get to a point where we're able to curate events to the point where you have 60, 70, 80% of the people that should be there and lessen the amount of fluff. As of right now, I would say that you maybe have 5% of the people that are meant to be there, and then the other 95% is fluff that you're just using to fill up the room. And I blame the fact that you're focused so much more on logistics. It's very difficult to curate these experiences, to curate these events, making sure that attendees are the right type of attendees that can form these connections because they are very relatable in that niche topic. And that brain power should be focused on that.
I totally like Jay. Like for the one of the questions just pop up in my head, like because we're talking about the focus. Like currently, just you focus in the US only, like because only, or are you kind of like planning to kind of different markets? Because I feel like this is also is going to be at least the initial phase until kind of like people know about your startup. Like you have to kind of focus on maybe certain cities or certain kind of like where since you mentioned New York, like a lot of events. Like what's your thoughts on this, like an expansion? And
Yeah, so I would definitely say we're focused on the big tech hubs, New York, San Francisco, Boston, Miami, and then as we expand, maybe expand to different parts of the U.S. and even potentially go global because events are happening everywhere, right? Like in I think Japan might be the case. Being a host itself is a job, right? Now imagine these hosts were enabled with the tools to curate the events even better, find the resources easier so they can put even more effort on being a fantastic host, right? And so that's something I've noticed in trends in different countries. As of right now, we're purely focused on the tech hubs, where that's kind of been the niche that we're targeting because there's more and more tech events that are popping up. I think San Francisco does a great job of that. New York does a great job of that. Boston and Miami are coming up as well.
like I think in Japan also like there is a lot of events. I don't know like about tech focus. I think there is like a lot of like for corporate. But I feel like US they have more. Sometimes I go to Luma, Luma like
Mhm.
and I think they have, for example, just AI events. Like because for me, like I'm in AI space, like and
Yeah.
I was like, wow, San Francisco is just like every month, like probably hundreds of events. Like it's just
Yeah.
madness. Like yeah, I think in Japan here probably like AI events like in Tokyo here probably like I don't know like could be like 10, 20 a month
Yeah.
or something.
Yeah. So it
Yeah,
really
that's
targets any sort of events. We've started focusing on the niche of tech events, but it can expand further. We're working with a few clients where they want to build a community. And like I mentioned, because it's community builders, a lot of founders and companies are using it as part of their go-to-market strategy, right? Inviting, potential clients and prospects to these events, right? And now how do we curate that to make sure that they have a very good experience? So it basically jumps from your initial call to you having already built rapport because a single fun night can feel like you already have a month or two of a relationship built.
oh, that's great. Since you mentioned it's like some people use it at GTM. I mean, one of the idea like classic when you end up organizing your own events, probably already have done it. Like, do you think like that's kind of like the difference between you basically organize events for others versus you do the events? It could be distraction or you do both. Like, what do you think of this? Like, and selling basically like people who want to pitch
Yeah.
kind of in your events? Or what do you
Yeah,
think of this?
our business model is we are helping people like basically host and curate their own events. We will be hosting our own events as part of our marketing plan, where we want to show that what we're capable of doing with partnerships as well, and then use that to really, put the word out there of what we can do with your own events and your own ideas.
Jay, I think that's pretty much kind of like we covered mainly like kind of most questions. Like, I should have asked you more about like kind of yourself, like not just like about the business. Like, what keeps you going? Like, I mean, like, I think we all have like, are you doing it like basically like for tech crunch or for the money, or like some people say like, I like talking to people. I don't know about that. What's the motivation that keeps you going?
I think it's definitely a very big, I guess, like money and ego. Honestly, it's just believing that, hey, this is
Okay.
like I want to build a massive company and change how people curate events, and that's what keeps me going. Where in reality, it's very easy to want to, like I mentioned, where every other day you can say I can just have a nice cushy job, make good money, go on a few vacations a year, live a very comfortable life, and it's very difficult to choose the other side. And as you get further in life, it gets harder and harder to make that decision. So it's really just internal realizing I want far more for myself, and I'm willing to kind of like shoot for the stars, like get rich or die trying.
I think that's the spirit. Like, I think for every founders, like, you gotta kind of find your way, like, kind of how you kind of you just keep going. You do whatever it takes. Oh, Jay, like we have like a quick fire shot, like basically like a quick questions. Like,
Mhm.
first of all, a question like, in one word, would you describe AI like in general? There's a tons of hype around it.
Future.
The future. That's a good like maybe also the present. Next question: what's your favorite AI tool like you use like every day or
I would say probably the best one would at this point is Cursor.
cursor? Oh, like I think I use cursor like a little bit, but more like I'm still in the VS Code and bunch of kind of vibe coding. Like I think even VS Code like you can now install like Claude like and like Claude Code and a bunch of like. And next question: like, what would you, for example, do differently before you started my CaterPal? Like,
If I could do it over, do differently.
yeah, like what would you do? For example, you said like you pivoted. Like, what would you do if you kind of already like know before pivoting, or what you know about your industry right now, like differently? Like,
I think a big part of it is forming the right team. It's like you go through co-founder breakups. You have to find someone else. I think a team is super important because they always say it's like if you want to go fast, go by yourself. If you want to go far, go with people. And so I would ultimately put a high emphasis on do what you're doing, but put a lot of emphasis on building the right team.
I totally agree with this one. Like, I tried honestly like to have a co-founder, but like I use this kind of YC co-founder matching, and then like it was a great guy, but like I end up like cutting it like when some people like start talking about. I shouldn't talk about it in a podcast, but like I'm fundraising. I shouldn't. Jay, like I appreciate you being on the show. Like for everybody like who's watching here, I'm gonna post Jay like I'm gonna tag him like on LinkedIn. Like we're gonna share this video on YouTube. Please follow him. Like if you are organizing events, like definitely reach out to him, especially if you are like in in US at least at this stage. Jay, I think he also like make videos. Please follow him. Like Jay, you have anything like want to share about like new features coming up or something like about your startup and or something kind of any launch coming like you want to share? Please like go ahead. Like stage is
Yeah.
yours.
I would say definitely keep an eye out. We're working on some really good stuff, and we're going to start releasing some of those internal tools, external for usage. And so, super excited about that. Where even if you're thinking about starting to host events, if you have an idea for a club that you want to start, that it's a fantastic place to start. It's basically we'll give you all the starting points of hosting a successful event, and we want more and more people to be hosting events because the more we have, the better that they'll get, and ultimately some of the ones will filter out. But I would urge everyone where if you have an idea, people are looking to get together. There are always going to be people who have similar interests to you, so if you need help with that, definitely reach out.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you so much, Jay.